Hey everyone, I decided to do this video because I recorded after I really thought about it. So I'm gonna leave this video and I'm gonna post it the way it is. But I'm not gonna read all three different versions of I'm not gonna read three different versions of the Bible when I'm recording for you guys. I'm just gonna read the New King James Version. That happens to be the most accurate version. So I think I'm going to do that. I will read all three of them before doing the podcast, and then I will read the New King James Version with you guys, one, maybe two chapters at a time. And then, if there's anything that I can add to it or share with you, because there are fascinating things about Genesis that I would really like to share, then I'll do that. This was kind of just a rough draft, a rough idea. After I did the recording, I was like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't just do all three because I know to a lot of people, listening to the same thing three different times is probably going to be a little redundant, a little boring. So this is a rough draft. The next one is going to start being the way that I described it from here on out. Honestly, I think it's a good thing to hear it from three different Bibles because it's repetitiveness. So it gets you to kind of maintain information that you wouldn't typically maintain by hearing the same thing in three different similar ways. Because it's helped me out a lot when I read the Bible. I'm reading it now in three different versions, and as I read it, I'm remembering more details. I'm remembering the books better. So it's done wonders for me, but I want to do what's going to be best for, you guys, for the audience. And I could see how probably reading it from three different, versions isn't going to be the most catchy thing for you. So I want to make sure you get the information, but more importantly, I want you to actually come on here and want to listen to it, and I just don't think that's going to be the way to go. So I hope you guys enjoy it. This was kind of how I was thinking of going about it, but we're going to make some changes, and we're gonna do it the new way I was sharing it with you, the new way I was describing. But anyways, I love you. I hope you enjoyed this kind of rough draft, for lack of better terminology. I thought it was going to be good, but that chapter one was pretty long, so going over it three times kind of woke me up to the idea that maybe it's not going to be a good idea. But, God bless you guys, and please, if you like it, please like, subscribe, and share. If you have any comments, we would love to hear from you. This is The Reaper. Enjoy the show. Welcome, everyone, to the Crusade Cast. If you're watching this, I don't know if you got to catch our earlier episode as far as the updating of the war. There wasn't really too much. I think I just I reiterated a couple of things. There were some new developments. I hope you enjoyed it. I also went over the BRICS, the new BRICS currency that is coming out or that is out. So, I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys comment and subscribe. And share it, please, if you enjoy it. But this episode here, I've been talking about getting into Genesis for a little while. And I do think it's important. I'm taking my time. I'm not going to rush this. So it might be one episode a month. It might be one episode every 2 months. I want to make sure that I'm doing everything 100%. And that whatever I tell you is not going to be a lie. It's not going to be a falsehood. I want everything I'm going to tell you to be 100% research-based, that I 100% know what I'm telling you, and then go from there. Because I want to give 100% to God. I'm not here to give 50%. I'm not here to slack on doing anything for God. I feel like He's been, working on me and that He's been wanting me to do this. I'm going to be reading out of the Bible. Sometimes I'm going to read one chapter at a time. Well, sometimes I might do two. I'm going to be reading out of three Bibles. Three. I want there to be three different versions. I want you to hear it from three different translations, so that way you can understand what's going on. Because I do believe, one, it helps me, believe it or not, as I read it, it helps me to grasp everything, which is what I've been doing lately. But I also think in hearing it three times and three different translations, which they're all similar, they just have little things that differ in wording, but I think it actually helps you to get a better grasp on it too. But what I really love about Genesis is Genesis, for any of those philosophers that are out there, is definitely a philosophical book. If you really think about the beginning, not the entire thing, because a lot of philosophers are always wanting to know what is What is our purpose? Does God even exist? There are philosophers that would state, at least, some atheist philosophers that state the only real question for atheists is whether or not to commit suicide. Here's the interesting thing. So when Hubble discovered that the universe was expanding, that pretty much gave the Christian community the biggest win scientifically. The reason being is because now that we know the universe has been expanding, if you reverse it and rewind it, well, if the universe expands as you move forward, what happens when you rewind it? It shrinks. So as it shrinks, it gets to a point to where it becomes nothingness. And the reason why that is so important is because now you can't refute that God exists. Now, the question here is whether or not what God exists, right? Because here's the thing. The universe can't just spontaneously blow from nothing. Anybody who's scientific will tell you it had to have come from something. So now that begs the question, there's a creator. The creator is outside of our universe. It's outside of space and time, which means there is a God. And here's the thing. So I've been reading a book called On Guard, and the philosophical points that they get into, and I haven't even been able to complete it yet, but just some of the things I want to share with you before we even start getting in to Genesis. So there's a gentleman called Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, or Leibniz, I don't know how you pronounce it. He had three arguments. So number one, everything that exists has an explanation of its existence. It's pretty straightforward, right? If the universe has an explanation of its existence, that explanation is God. Well, as I told you, it would have to be at this point because we've been able to scientifically prove that the universe is expanding. So that would be 100% true. And then three, the universe exists. So if the universe exists, that means the explanation has to be God, which is 100% understandable. Now, when people seem to get the explanation of its existence, and they seem to misunderstand what he talks about, so they actually broke it down. So there are things that exist necessarily, which would be God. So the universe didn't create itself. So necessarily, there would have to be a God that created the universe. Because as I stated before, by science, there's no scientist that would sit here and state that nothing blew up and bam, here we are. It just doesn't make any sense. No scientist worth anything would sit here and tell you that that's true. Well, what they would say is that there was a creator. There has to be at this point. There has to be something that started the universe because now we know it's expanding. So unfortunately, you rewind that. That is the biggest win for the Christian community as far as does God exists? Yes, the scientific community now has to admit that there is a being that created the universe. If they don't, they're not worth their grain of salt. They're not really trying to have an open dialogue, and they're not really trying to get down to the truth if they don't admit that simple fact. So, and what I enjoy about this is the fact that now we know this isn't speculation. Like people are like, well, to be a Christian, you have to have faith. Yes, there's always going to be a certain amount of faith that is needed. I will not argue with that. But guess what? Now we know 100% there is a God that created the universe. Now, people might argue who, but I actually would suggest it is Jesus Christ. That's our Lord and Savior. That is the true God of the universe. And there's plenty of evidence to support it. But we're going to stay focused on the book of Genesis. So as you can see, that was number one was things that exist necessarily. So this is them trying to explain that everything that exists has an explanation of its own existence. So that was the example that they gave. God is a necessity. There is no universe without God. So it's a necessity. Then there are things that are produced by some external cause. So like humans, right? So when mommy and daddy love each other very much, and they come together, they create a child. Right? So those are things that are produced. So, okay. So, and that's actually a very fairly decent argument. It's a very well put. There are details. I'm just giving you the breakdown. There's also another argument, that is to be made, and I'm actually looking for him here because this is, his argument is actually very interesting, but we started getting into, Hubble. So let me see if I can find it because I thought that, here we go. I believe this is it. Let me double check here. So that looks like it could be. So, okay. So the Kalam cosmological argument. All right. So Al-Ghazali's argument, premise one, whatever begins to exist has a cause. That's fairly straight, right? Number two, the universe began to exist. Three, therefore the universe has a cause. Those are all simplistic reasoning. So there are three reasons to support this premise. So something cannot come from nothing. Very standard, very straightforward. I mean, philosophically, that's true. Something just cannot come out of nothing. Number two, if something can come into being from nothing, then it becomes inexplicable why just anything or everything doesn't come into being from nothing. So, in other words, if something can come from nothing, then why doesn't everything just come from nothing? Okay, it's understandable. Not saying that's mind-boggling. Number three, common experience and scientific evidence confirm the truth of premise one. Premise one is constantly verified and never falsified. It's hard to understand how anyone committed to modern science could deny premise one is more plausibly true than false. And what was premise one? Let's take a look. What begins to exist has a cause. That's, once again, pretty straightforward. The first philosophical argument, an actuality, infinite number of things cannot exist. Okay, so this is where it starts getting a little more out of this world, but you guys get the premise. Now that we know that science has actually proven that the universe is expanding, and now that there is a God that exists, there's nothing at this point that anyone could take away from the fact that this world can only be explained by God. It's a philosophical point of view. It's one that is held by, like, anybody who is serious in the scientific community will tell you that, yeah, there has to be something that created there, because the universe didn't just bam. And here's the thing, I find it crazy that they believe it takes more faith to believe in Jesus Christ than it does to believe that nothing was there and then bam, it explodes. Frank Turek kind of hit the nail, kind of hit the nail right on when he said that I don't have enough faith to be an atheist because I think it takes more faith to believe that than it does that there is a God out there that created this, that started all of this, and that set things into motion. So philosophically and even scientifically, it only makes sense that there's a God, right? And these are just basic arguments. I'm not even going into the full, nitty-gritty. Maybe I will do a podcast one day to really get into the book On Guard. It is a really good read. It really gets you going. It really makes you think. So I would really recommend reading the book On Guard. But, I was just sharing that with you because I found it to be very intriguing. Science has, a lot of scientists like to think that science and the Bible, they can't coexist, that they don't go hand in hand, that if you're a smart intellectual, that you believe in science, you can't believe in God, and that if you're an idiot and you're a retard, then obviously you can believe in God, but then can't believe in science. You understand that the argument for Jesus Christ is that he created the world, which means he created what you're trying to understand, because that's what science is. It's trying to understand the universe. It's discovering the universe. So you're trying to discover what we believe our God created, and then you're telling us that in order to be an intellectual, you can't believe in both things. You can only believe in one or the other, which is very idiotic. If Jesus Christ created all of this, then everything that he created goes together. They work together because he created it. Why on God's green earth would he create this world and all of its splendor, or however you want to call it, but then when it comes to getting into the scientific world, all of a sudden it's 100% separated from Jesus Christ? That's absolute idiotic. Absolutely idiotic. So, this is why I really enjoy, Genesis. I'm going to be reading out of 3 different Bibles for you guys. I don't know if I'll be doing that the whole time, I like it for me. I think you guys should like it too. But I do understand listening to the same thing 3 different times can be a little hard. But the first book that I'm going to be reading, well, not the first book, the version, it's the New International Version. So let me get to this, let me get to Genesis chapter 1 and then go from there. So we're only going to do chapter 1 today, guys, because chapter 1's a little bit lengthy. And, I don't want you guys to, be falling asleep on me, okay, because I'm trying to do too many chapters and read it. So I'm going to read all of chapter 1 in 3 different versions, just to see if there's anything you hear different. And then I'm going to kind of see if there's anything that I need to go over that I find fascinating, or I might just stop as I go and share with you guys some fascinating things. So let's go from there. So in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, and the first day. And God said, "Let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water." So God made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above it. And it was so. God called the vault sky, and there was evening, and there was morning the second day. And God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear." And it was so. God called the dry ground land, and the gathered waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants, and trees on the land that bears fruit, with seed in it, according to their various kinds." And it was so. The land produced vegetation, plants bearing seed according to their kinds, and trees bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good, and there was evening, and there was morning, the third day. And God said, Let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years, and let them be lights in the vault of the sky to give light on earth. And it was so. God made 2 great lights, the greater light to govern the day, and the lesser light to govern the night. He also made the stars. God set them in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate light from darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. And God said, Let the water teem with living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the vault of the sky. So God created the great creatures of the sea, and every living thing with which the water teems, and that moves about in it, according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them and said, Be fruitful and increase in number, and fill the water in the seas, and let the birds increase on the earth. And there was evening, and there was morning, the fifth day. And God said, Let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds, the livestock, the creatures that move along the ground, and the wild animals, each according to its kind. And it was so. God made the wild animals according to their kinds, and livestock according to their kinds, and all the creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea, and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all of the wind animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. Yep, these pages are so thin. There we go. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves on the ground." Then God said, "I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They will be yours for food. And to all the beasts of the earth, and all the birds in the sky, and all the creatures that move along the ground, everything that has the breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food." And it was so. God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. So that was the entire chapter in the International. Let me just make sure I get this right. I don't want to give you guys any kind of false information, because I've been there. This should be, I think it was the International version. Where is it? I'm sure I said it prior, but let me just make sure. Yes, New International Version. So that was chapter 1. That was chapter 1. Let's go here. So this one here is going to be the Christian Standard Version. So let's go ahead. So this one doesn't seem as long as that one, but let's go ahead. All right. So I want to make sure that I'm doing this correctly. Let me know. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness covered the surface of the watery depths, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. There was an evening, and there was a morning, one day. Then God said, "Let there be an expanse between the waters, separating water from water." So God made the expanse and separated the water under the expanse from the water above the expanse. And it was so. God called the expanse sky. He called the expanse sky. Evening came, and then morning the second day. Then God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered into the place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the gathering of the water he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth produce vegetation, seed, bearing plants and fruit trees on the earth, bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kinds." And it was so. The earth produced the vegetation, seed-bearing plants according to their kind, and trees bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kind. And God saw that it was good. Evening came, and then morning, the third day. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the sky to separate the day from the night. They will serve as signs for seasons and for days and years. They will be lights in the expanse of the sky to provide light on earth." And it was so. God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule over the day, and the lesser light to rule over the night, as well as the stars. God placed them in the expanse of the sky to provide light on the earth, to rule the day and the night, and to separate light from darkness. And God saw that it was good. Evening came, and then morning, the fourth day. Then God said, "Let the water swarm with living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the sky." So God created the large sea creatures, and every living creature that moves and swarms in the water. According to their kinds, he also created every winged creature according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them. "Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the waters of the sea, and let the birds multiply on the earth." Evening came, and then morning, the fifth day. Then God said, "Let the earth produce living creatures according to their kinds, livestock, creatures, and crawl. Or wait, let me try that again, because that one confused me a little bit. Then God said, "Let the earth produce living creatures according to their kinds, livestock, creatures that crawl, and the wildlife of the earth, according to their kinds." And it was so. So God made the wildlife of the earth according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and all the creatures that crawl on the ground according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. Then, let me make sure. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. They will rule the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, the livestock, the whole earth, and the creatures that crawl on the earth. So God created man in his own image. He created him in the image of God. He created the male and female. God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and subdue it. Rule the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and every creature that crawls on earth. God also said, look, I have given you every seed-bearing plant on the surface of the entire earth, and every tree whose fruit contains seed. This will be food for you, for the wildlife of the earth, for every bird of the sky, and for every creature that crawls on the earth, everything having the breath of life in it. I have given every green plant for food, and it was so. God saw that God saw all that he had made, and it was very good indeed. Evening came, and then morning, the sixth day. So that's chapter 1, and that is in the Christian Standard Bible. As you can see, wording is a little different. I think this version right here is a little easier to follow as of right now, but we're going to go to the most accurate version, at least according to how many people have translated it. So this here is hey, move. Okay. Sorry. My dog Katana's in here right now, and she is always craving love. And unfortunately, I can't always give her love. So she's in here as well because I can't trust her to be by herself. She's an absolute delight. She's a little cutie pie. But like I said, you might see my face change a little bit. You might see me have to pause. It's because I have my beautiful little dog in here with me. Because the other one I trust out there by himself. I would prefer to be doing this without the dogs, but my wife right now is not home, so I'm stuck on katana duty, as we call it. All right. So this is the last version we're going to read. And everyone, I'm doing this for a reason. I know there are parallel Bibles. I know there's a lot of people that don't like to read the word. So hey, let me read it for you. I have no problems reading the word. I'm going to read all 3 different versions. I want to see what's different. I want to see what's different in them. I want to see what's worded different. Because I'm already in the book of John, and I've already noticed the difference in the wording. How when Peter cuts off the man's ear when they came to actually get Jesus Christ, when Judas betrayed them, how there's a version of the Bible that says there was a disciple and an acquaintance that followed Jesus Christ, or that followed them to where they took Jesus Christ, and then in another version it says 2 disciples followed. Now, 2 disciples is most likely going to be more accurate. Now, by it stating an acquaintance and a disciple, is that a big deal? No, not really. It is called the Book of John. We can kind of put together who they were talking about. So I don't think it really changes anything and that it's a big deal. I just found that the word acquaintance is kind of odd because the acquaintance they're talking about would be John. And John's not really an acquaintance, you know? So it's weird because, you know, one version says 2 disciples and the other says an acquaintance and a disciple. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of a little odd. I don't believe it stated 2 acquaintances. I believe it was 1 acquaintance and 1 disciple. If it stated 2 acquaintances, it's even weirder, you know, because you're still calling a disciple an acquaintance. And these disciples were with God, through many different things. So to say that he's an acquaintance is kind of out there. But anyways, you know, let's stay on track. I don't want to go too crazy. I just wanted to, you know, share with you guys something I thought was a little fascinating. So here's chapter 1 in the New King James Version. This here has been interpreted by, I think it was like 30 or 40 different translators. So this here is supposed to be the most accurate Bible. This is by far the one that I have been starting to read the most, but I wanted to read all 3 of them. So now they're probably all going to get equally amount of love. So let's go through this, okay? So chapter 1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. 2, the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. Then God said, let there be a fermentation in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. So there seems to be a very uniqueness to this, because it talks about waters and waters. I can follow it. It's just, it's a uniquely worded, because today we look at the sky as the sky, but at this point it's like it's trying to describe what's going on. So, and you got to remember, when they were describing it, I don't know if they had the same kind of vocabulary as us, but that's a very unique way of describing it. The waters from the waters. Thus God made the fermentation and divided the waters which were under the fermentation from the waters which were above the fermentation, and it was so. And God called the fermentation heaven. So the evening and the morning were the second day. Then God said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit, according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, the herb that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the third day. Then God said, let there be lights in the fermentation of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons, and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth. And it was so. Then God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light on earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the fourth day. Then God said, let the waters abound with an abundance of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament of the heavens. So God created great sea creatures and every living thing that moves, with which the waters abounded, according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. I'm going to reread that. I feel like I butchered that. So God created sea creatures and every living thing that moves, with which the waters abounded, according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. Okay, I felt like I did a little better there, because I felt it really seemed like I butchered it, and that kind of bothered me. I don't like to butcher things. So we just got a few more verses. So I know, bear with me. That's why I'm only doing one chapter in each, because I know that they're a little longer, this round. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth. So the evening and the morning were the fifth day. Then God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, cattle and creeping thing and beasts of the earth, each according to its kind. And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth according to its kind, cattle according to its kind, and everything that creeps on the earth according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, okay, let me see this. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in his own image, in the image of God he created him, male and female he created them. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. And God said, see, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all of the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food. Also to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, in which there is life, I have given every green herb for food, and it was so. Then God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was good. So the evening and the morning were the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth and all of the hosts of them were finished. All right, so that's from all three of them. They're all very similar. In this one, I don't really see much of a difference. Like I said, the one that I was reading in John, there were a little bit of differences. There's not really much. What I do find to be interesting, and you can kind of lean it into politics in today's world, but a lot of people like to say, well, you see, he said he created them. Common sense would tell you when he's talking about them, he's not talking about the LGBTQ movement. When he says them, he's literally talking about man and woman. And he created them in their image. And I found that to be interesting. And actually, let me pull that up real quick, because I think that's actually one of the first clues to the Holy Trinity, right? So I want to make sure that I'm giving you guys correct here. So let me find that real quick, because that is important. Like, wording is very important. You need to really pay attention to that, and that's something that I'm still working on. But let me see if I can find it, because I would really like to make sure that I'm giving you guys the correct wording on it. So let me take a look here and see if I can find it. So he said, then God said, this is Genesis 1, verse 26, then God said, let us make man in our image. That is literally the first hint. That there's the Trinity that's going on there. Because if there was just one God, he would say, I created man and woman from my image. So the Holy Trinity is one, but it's important that you see that word says our as in the Trinity. Because, it's very easy to miss that. When I first read it, I actually missed that entirely. I missed it completely, didn't catch it at all. And before you know it, I'm watching sermons, I'm still reading the word, and before you know it, somebody's like, hey, by the way, the first time they actually hint at, or the way that they worded it right here is actually suggesting to you that there is the Holy Trinity, and that even from the book of Genesis, that the Holy Trinity was there. This isn't something that happened, back in the New Testament and now is when he's getting to it. No, like they kind of allude to it there. And I hope I'm using that word correctly, because sometimes I use words that I think I'm using correctly and I'm not. I apologize. But right there where he said in our image, that right there is your first clue of the Trinity. And that is your first piece of evidence on the Trinity. And that's already right there in chapter 1, and as you can see here, this is the New King James Version. Well, let me back it up a little bit. The New King James Version, that's the one. This is from John Hagee. The other one that I'm reading, so that you guys can see, this is Christian Standard Bible. This is the Tony Evans Study Bible. And then the last one that I was doing, which is the New International Version. Does it say over here? Because sometimes it does. So it says NIV. I'm not sure if you guys can see that there. It's a little weird. So let me open the page. There it is, so that you can see. Whoops! It's at the top there. It's in those words. Can you see it or no? Come on. I just want to get it. I'm sorry, guys. It doesn't look like it's going to post up really great, but that there states the New International Version, and this is the third Bible here that I'm reading from. So you can see, I'm not just pulling this off of a phone. 3 Bibles right here that I'm reading. And the reason why I'm doing that, once again, so for those of you who don't like to read the word, honestly, I think you're doing a disservice to yourself. I think you should. I'm actually, once I'm done with this podcast here, I'm going to read 2 more chapters in the book of John, where I'm currently at. But I do think you do a disservice to yourself. I think you should read the word. I think you should equip yourself with what you need to know in order to combat Satan. Because you have to remember that when God was fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, when he went up there and he was tempted by Satan, he quoted scripture. That's what he was doing. He quoted the word to combat Satan. And the thing is when you don't know your word, you don't know what to combat Satan with. So how can you, and not only that, but when God says that you can be healed, like you can perform fasting. There are so many things that the human beings can perform because he gave us the ability to access these certain things. But what happens is people don't read the word. They don't know how to actually get to these abilities. They don't know how to actually take advantage of them. But here's the other thing. They're hard. Like fasting is a big deal. Fasting is a very big deal. There's a reason why God was fasting for 40 days. And let me tell you something. That's not easy to do. Many people can't do it. I struggle to get to 7. That's like the longest I've ever done is a 7-day fast. I have not been able to go past that. And since I've done the 7-day fast, I've only done it like twice. I have not been able to get to it since. But fasting is a big deal. It's you fighting your flesh, keeping your flesh in line. And especially if you're praying while you're fasting, the things that God can do on your body, the things that he gives you access to as far as healing is incredible. The problem is if you don't know your word, if you don't know your Bible, and I'm still learning, so I don't want to make it sound like I'm an expert, but if you don't know your word, how can you combat Satan? If you don't know your word, how do you know what God says as far as the scripture is concerned? How can you sit here when Satan tempts you and makes an argument that most people would fall for, but because you don't know your word, how can you combat him? How do you know if what he's saying is true? It just sounds good. Because you got to remember, Satan is the father of lies. He's the ultimate manipulator, and he is here to manipulate, kill, and destroy. So it's important that you read your word. I think you do a disservice to yourself when you don't read the word. And I know when you hear me reading the same thing 3 times, it sounds boring. But remember, I'm doing this, one, for repetition. I'm somebody of repetition. If I read something 3 times, I am more likely to hold on to that and remember what book it came out of than anything else. So if you're just listening to the word, I think this would be good for you. Now, I'm also reading it 3 times because I am going to be going into some things that only God would know at that time, and that the information that they gave are mind-blowing because they didn't have the technology to know what they know. And they didn't have the technology to know how to build some of the things they built. Because they claim that God taught them how to build something in Genesis, and I'm not going to give it away. You're going to have to stay tuned. We're going to get there, but I'm looking forward to it. This is just step 1. This is day 1. My main goal was just to go over chapter 1, and also was to point out that God is a Trinity. God the Father, Jesus Christ the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And one of the ways he was pointing that out is when he said in our image, and it's important that you remember that and that you get that to stay in your head, that it's not just God. There's 3. And that's why it was important that he said in our image, not just in his image. But anyways, that's all I have for you for Genesis for now. Like I said, I want to take my time and do this right. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, or if you like the video, please like, share, subscribe. We'd appreciate it. This is going to be one of many videos, guys. I plan on going through the whole Bible doing this. And there's going to be a lot more times where it's going to be a lot more fun and informative. This is the beginning. Genesis, the first maybe chapter or 2. It takes a little bit before there's things that I can really get into scientifically. The reason why I brought up philosophy beforehand is because I really felt like chapter 1 and, would kind of fall into the philosophical arguments that a lot of people have, as far as, is there a God? Is there a creator of the universe? That's why I gave the evidence for it. That's why I told you Hubble is the one that discovered the expansion of the universe. I wanted to share the philosophical points of views, and it just sucks. I have so much going on that I couldn't 100% get into every little thing with the On Guard book for Genesis chapter 1, because I think you guys probably would have been a little interested in it. But I'm going to get there. We're going to go over it. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. We will be going over it little by little. I promise you that. It's going to be exciting. It's going to get better. I love y'all. God bless you. This is The Reaper with the Crusade Cast. Out.